I'm very happy to introduce extremely quickly this webinar, which is the Earth Assembly, which is a way to link here the people in the COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh with some friend from Egypt, which is, for reason he will explain, doesn't live today in Egypt. Then people in Latin America from the Earth Assembly, Pablo Solon was part of the team who realized this very nice little video. Then Zé Correa from Brazil will explain the challenges of the Amazon and Brazil and Latin America after the victory of Lula at the election. And then we will have at the end of this half an hour an answer and reaction of Luca, who was talking this morning in this assembly in Firenze, who is one of the spokespersons of Friday for the Future in Italy. Okay, thanks a lot. Now we have Doti Guerrero. Doti Guerrero is an activist from Global Justice Now, and she's in the COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, and she will present for us the main challenges and goal of the COP27. Thanks a lot. Doti, you have the floor.
Thank you, Christophe, and hello to everyone. Buongiorno. We are here at the Civil Society Hub in Sharm el-Sheikh, and we just participated in 2 actions for today. So there's also a global march here inside the venue, participated by everyone who has the badge to get inside. And then there was also before coming here an action on climate debt. And as was mentioned before now, we are close to 3 decades now. This is Conference of Parties, this 27th one under the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, the Kyoto Protocol, and the Paris Agreement. And many of the southern delegations here are growing more and more frustrated each day because it looks like there's a big gap. For the North, they lack political will and policies. And for the South, they simply need justice, and they need funding, climate finance, and technology. And those are 2 simple words, but inside the negotiation, it looks like they're talking over each other's heads. And even until now, after 27 COPs, the term equity was also frustratingly not understood in the same context. This COP, the litmus test would be climate finance for adaptation and the loss and damage facility. And on one hand, it is good that it's back in the agenda after Glasgow, when it was told that there will only be a loss and damage dialogue that will take 3 years. So now it is put back in the agenda by G7, 7 and China countries. But most of the Annex 1 country or the rich government representatives here are also sort of conditioning the mind as well of people here and the negotiators that it may not happen here. It may come in 2 years' time or 3 years' time, which is effectively what Glasgow produced, a dialogue to last for 3 years. And in the march today, this morning, you will see, we heard all the shouts about the need for reparation, the need for compensation, the need for loss and damage finance, the need simply for the northern countries to say that put your money where your mouth is. And that's the sad fact here, because it seems many will go home without that climate funding in reality. And you've also mentioned that this COP is happening at this junction where you have a war, where you have a lot of people reeling from the cost of living crisis, and governments are saying that we have this and that problem, and climate seems to be less and less of a priority. But people here are shouting that climate is more important than ever, because for southern countries, the problem is already felt. Many southern countries, they're even saying they're beyond adaptation, because for many countries, all these droughts, floods, all these are happening now, like what happened in Pakistan a month ago. So what we will come home with seems to be a memory again of the goalpost being put forward again, and broken unfulfilled promises, while in the leaders' meeting, many of the governments of the North, including the UK government, who said they are tripling climate financing, but actually no new money are coming. These are old ODA money. And at the same time, we're also saying if they're looking for money, it is very clear where the money should come from. It should be taxing just even the big five fossil fuel companies, even the big five oil companies, because even if you just put ExxonMobil, BP, Shell, Chevron, and Total, these five companies alone emitted 11.2% of the emissions. And here, again, like in Glasgow, 600 plus lobbyists are in the sessions attending. And one thing that we note as well, there are many delegations that have a peculiar ID called party overflow. So they can be researchers, they can be advisors, and some of them are also fossil fuel lobbyists. So I wanted to be hopeful. We wanted to keep our energy going, but we also wanted to look at the reality in the face. Apart from the words that says global change, climate change is a global problem that needs global solution, the reality is there are conflicts. And those conflicts are very, very difficult to overcome because these are real conflicts. There are real economic interests at stake here. And the northern countries, the rich countries, are not budging. The US also talk about promises, talking about how Africa can adapt and adaptation funds for Africa. But in reality, those are just new investments. Those are new ways to fund this or that investments instead of saying this is climate finance. This is new and increased money for climate adaptation. But instead of calling it that, they're doing all these bilateral meetings and promising southern countries for more investment, more this and that, and not really delivering on the climate finance as is needed. So, dear friends, it looked like we still have many more years ahead to fight this difficult and good fight as well. This morning, there were hundreds of people walking in the venue with all the flags saying debt cancellation, climate reparations, climate finance now, loss and damage. If they don't deliver, we'll just need to shut them down. And the good part is that, okay, we are here, we are in unity. We know what is needed to be done, but many of the governments that are here are not in the same understanding or not in the same preparation or same level of action. And we know this sad story, and this is continuing. So I will just say we brace more years of fighting. We build this Earth Assembly further because the mechanism for global governance on climate is in bad need of reform, and we need to push it to reform. Or we need to say, if you can't do it, then look for some other process. Otherwise, we're not happy anymore for your failures, for your failure in delivering your promises or just giving promises without real actions. So thank you very much. And I hope you have a good rest of the discussion there in Firenze.
Thank you very much, Dottie, for this presentation. And now I will pass the speech to Rami Chat, which is an Egyptian friend now in exile. But before to pass him the speech, to give him the floor, only to tell you that maybe you know that the COP, the Conference of Parties, are organized in different parts of the world. And one day it's in America, another day in Europe, in Asia, and now it's in Africa. To be in Africa, it's a very good thing, and it's important to focus a little bit on the situation of this continent. But the country this COP is now is hosted by a specific country, Egypt, which is not nothing for human rights, and it's important to hear the voice of the people who suffer the Egyptian situation. Rami Chat, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for having me in the assembly. My name is Rami Chat. I'm an activist. In mid-2019, tens of armed soldiers attacked my home after midnight. In Egypt, we call them midnight visitors, where they don't show a warrant, they don't show who they are. They arrested me and my wife, confiscated my house and my belongings. My wife is French. They deported her without even giving her the right to contact her consulate. And I was forced disappeared. They took me, handcuffed me, blindfolded me, threw me in a dungeon attached to a wall for days. And then I was taken an arbitrary detention for 2.5 years under interrogation, in which I never, my case, there was no case. There was no legal framework. I was not tried. I was not even allowed to see my lawyers. I have seen people, thousands of people in Egyptian jails, activists from all sorts of walks, journalists, politicians, but thousands and thousands of normal Egyptian people who were arrested just because they were stopped in the middle of the street, their phone confiscated, their Facebook account checked for a joke or a note against the regime that was enough for them to be arrested and thrown in jail as terrorists. I was accused in my only one interrogation through the 2.5 years for 45 minutes, where an security interrogator, i.e. a security officer with an interrogator suit, asked me about my opinion in the revolution and who did I vote for. And when I got angry, why was I arrested? He said, okay, we're accusing you of being of a terrorist organization. I laughed because I know that this is the cocktail accusations they use against all activists. And I said, what terrorist organization? He said, well, we cannot tell you. And we're accusing you of spreading rumors and lies against the state using social media networks. And I laughed again and I said, I'm a known activist and I even never use social media. I don't even have a Facebook account. He said, okay, how do you appear to people? You're a known activist. I said, well, sometimes on TV. He said, okay, we'll change the charge. This is the kind of accusations that 60,000 Egyptian political prisoners today are rotting in hell, systematically being abused, systematically being tortured. And every single state security parameter next to a police station in Egypt, that's a spot for forced disappearances. And forced disappearances are places where people have no idea where they are, where their lawyers, the families don't know where they are, where the government even refused to acknowledge that they hold you. That's the place where every day from 9 p.m. till 5 a.m., there's a torture party that people get abused, electrified for the lamest reasons. People being destroyed and humiliated in jails, their families get shattered. And this is the kind of republic of fear that has been created in Egypt since June 2013, when our previous head of military intelligence took over country by power and became the so-called president for 8 years now, turning the country into a reign of fear where parties cannot operate, where the NGOs are dissolving themselves because they're being confiscated, their money and assets being frozen, people are being banned from traveling. And in the middle of that, we're today giving Egypt, or this regime, the hosting of COP27. We're very worried of the greenwashing effect of that at the time where people are still rotten in jail, where as we're speaking now, thousands of people are being arrested because the government are worried of people demonstrations. Demonstrations are illegal and considered an act of terrorism. Freedom of speech is illegal. Media completely has been confiscated. All Egyptian media today is controlled by military intelligence, and the ones who are not are being banned. 650 media websites are banned from operating. At that same time, today, in Egyptian jails, being accused as terrorists for their activism, Mohammed Amasha, a known green activist, and Dr. Fatin, a known green activist, both of them at the time where Egypt is hosting COP, are rotting in jail because of their green activism. There's absolutely no climate justice without social justice. We need your support. We need your call and to be our voice in calling for the freedom of political prisoners in Egypt. There's absolutely no way that this country and this regime should be hosted such a grant. This is only being used for its international legitimacy and for possible financing in a time where the economy is completely ruined because of army control on it. We have to be very aware of the linkage between human rights, climate is in essence a human rights of our next future and next generation, cannot happen in a country that suppresses its own people currently, their human rights and their ability to talk about their future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rami, to have been with us and to give this very emotional and important testimony. And now we will go to another continent in Latin America, and we will hear Pablo Solón. Pablo Solón is an old activist who was important in the birth of the World Social Forum, but he was also a minister and a responsible of the Bolivian government after the first victory of Evo Morales. And he was ambassador of Bolivia in the UN system, and he was negotiating in the COP on the name of the Bolivian plurinational state. Now, Pablo, you have the floor, but before I want to tell that you are one of the most important person who promote this idea of Earth Assembly, and it's very important for us to hear you and to have an idea of what is this project and what we can do together. Thanks a lot. You have the floor, Pablo.
Muchas gracias. Un saludo muy fuerte a ustedes en Florencia y a todos quienes están también en Sharm el Sheikh. ¿Por qué está ocurriendo esto? ¿Es un accidente o lo que estamos presenciando es el fracaso de 30 años de negociaciones de cambio climático en las Naciones Unidas? Después de haber seguido las negociaciones en Copenhague, yo creo que el resultado que estábamos viendo ahora se lo pudo haber previsto ya en Copenhague y Cancún. El Acuerdo de París no va a resolver el problema. Es imposible porque es un acuerdo voluntario, donde los países simplemente dicen lo que van a hacer y si no lo hacen, lo pueden cambiar. Y actualmente todas las contribuciones de reducción de gases de efecto invernadero son menos de una décima parte de lo que se necesita para contener el incremento de la temperatura por debajo de 1,5 grados centígrados. ¿Por qué la COP, por qué la Conferencia de Cambio Climático actúa así? Por un lado, ya lo mencionó Doti, la gran presencia de las corporaciones, de las grandes transnacionales petroleras vinculadas a los combustibles fósiles. En segundo lugar, tenemos los gobiernos petroleros que han capturado esta COP y van a capturar la próxima COP que será en Emiratos Árabes. Pero también tenemos los gobiernos que pueden tener un signo de derecha o de izquierda, pero que a último momento se niegan a tomar las medidas necesarias para salir de los combustibles fósiles porque la situación puede ser problemática para su reelección en el gobierno. Entonces, tenemos un sistema de Naciones Unidas capturado por la lógica de las corporaciones y capturada por la lógica del poder. Yo creo que si no empezamos a construir algo desde abajo, que unifique a todas las luchas que se están dando, no solo por la justicia climática, sino contra el extractivismo y contra todas estas formas de explotación de la naturaleza, no vamos a poder cambiar el curso de la situación. Esta es la idea, esta es la propuesta de Asambleas de la Tierra. Es algo que viene ocurriendo con otros nombres. Cuando se lucha por territorios libres de minería en Ecuador, cuando se saca de ciertas zonas de la Amazonía a empresas que están contaminando los ríos, se está empezando a ejercer el poder local. Yo creo que la lucha por el cambio climático se la tiene que ganar a nivel local, porque solo así vamos a tener una fuerza suficiente como para poder cambiar a nivel nacional y a nivel internacional lo que son el sistema de negociaciones de las Naciones Unidas. Para que cambien las Naciones Unidas de fondo, no puede haber una representación solo de gobiernos. Tiene que haber una representación efectiva de la sociedad civil también en igualdad de condiciones. Y también tenemos que incorporar a la naturaleza como parte de quienes deciden en estos procesos en los cuales, sobre todo, está la suerte de la humanidad, pero sobre todo también de la naturaleza. Yo creo que lo que pasa en las Naciones Unidas es lo que ocurrió con la Liga de las Naciones después de que no pudo evitar la Segunda Guerra Mundial. Una crisis tan grande como la que se está viviendo a nivel ambiental, a nivel climático, está mostrando la necesidad de una reestructuración total del sistema de las Naciones Unidas. Estoy convencido que va a tener que salir un nuevo proceso de reconducción para que podamos tener COPs que no se realicen en países con detenidos políticos, con conculcación de derechos humanos. Y este es el camino, este es el llamado de construir asambleas de la tierra desde abajo para ir cambiando desde los cimientos aquello que nos permita enfrentar la crisis climática y abrazar lo que todos queremos, que haya justicia climática y se restablezca el equilibrio del sistema del planeta Tierra. Muchísimas gracias.
Y ahora vamos a escuchar un otro amigo de América Latina que se llama Zé Correa, un amigo de Brasil que vive en São Paulo y que fue uno de los iniciadores del Foro Social Mundial hace más de 20 años now, y que está también muy metido en la Asamblea de la Tierra, que organizó un segundo foro panamazónico en Belém en este junio. Zé, tienes la palabra.
Saludos desde Brasil a toda la gente que está en Florencia, en Sharm el Sheikh y por toda parte. Estamos saliendo en Brasil de una situación muy difícil, en especial para la Amazonía, donde en los últimos años creció mucho la destrucción de los bosques, de los ríos, de todas las formas de vida. Nosotros tuvimos en Brasil, con el gobierno negacionista de Bolsonaro, más de 700,000 muertos por la COVID. Nosotros tuvimos una gran agresión contra los pueblos originarios, en especial los pueblos indígenas que desde sus territorios resistieron a la agresión y defendieron con sus vidas los bosques, los ríos, todas las formas de vida. Pero en este proceso tuvimos un gran crecimiento de la deforestación, la pérdida solo en el último año de 13,000 kilómetros de bosques. La fragmentación de los bosques, su degradación, sequías cada vez más fuertes, el fuego por la pecuaria, la agricultura agroexportadora, y con eso los bosques se volvieron fuentes de carbono, dejaron de ser de secuestrar el carbono, que es la gran tarea, la gran contribución de la floresta, de los bosques de la Amazonía para el equilibrio global del planeta. Entonces, con eso, los científicos nos dicen que hasta el fines de esa década, hasta 2030, nosotros vamos a tener en la Amazonía una de las 3 regiones del planeta, con el Mediterráneo, el sur de Estados Unidos. También la Amazonía va a ser una región donde se va a ultrapasar los 2 grados en relación al que era la temperatura mediana antes del siglo XX. Entonces, esa situación ha cambiado en el terreno político. La derrota del Bolsonaro con una gran frente antifascista en Brasil nos da la esperanza de que con el gobierno Lula esto cambie. Pero esa frente es una frente heterogénea. Y la cuestión de las políticas hacia la Amazonía brasileña son objeto de peleas entre los diferentes componentes de esa frente. Saben que la Amazonía brasileña es más de la mitad del conjunto de la Amazonía sudamericana. Entonces, el que va a pasar en Brasil es decisivo para el destino de los bosques, de los pueblos, de todas las formas de vida de esa región. Hay una presión de las grandes corporaciones. Hay dos presiones básicas. Hay una presión de una expansión de las actividades predadoras, del crimen organizado, de la minería ilegal, pero también hay una presión desde las grandes corporaciones. Y en eso la presión va a seguir hacia el gobierno Lula. De las corporaciones no solo agrícolas, de ganadería, de la gran minería, pero también las corporaciones financieras, el que ya habló Dorothy. Y tenemos para conducir esa pelea en Brasil que construir una gran alianza global, una coalición no desde los gobiernos solamente, pero principalmente desde los movimientos organizados, desde la sociedad civil. Solo eso puede tratar de temas como el comercio, las formas de consumo, el modelo de organización de la economía de conjunto. Bien, desde esa perspectiva de construcción de una gran coalición de movimientos por la justicia climática, es que las asambleas por la tierra pueden tener un rol similar al que tuvo hace 20 años el movimiento altermundialista, el movimiento por una otra globalización. Eso hoy es inseparable de esa pelea por la defensa de la naturaleza y de todas las formas de vida. El que planteamos desde Brasil es que la pelea que vamos a tener dentro de Brasil, en nuevas y muy mejores condiciones, va a ser parte de la pelea que todos nosotros vamos a tener que conducir por todas las partes. Eso es el mensaje que queremos transmitir desde Brasil. Y bien, saludos y con la esperanza de que vamos a tener días mucho mejores a pesar de la peora general que nos espera en los próximos años de las condiciones de salud del planeta. Gracias.
Muchas gracias de Corea. And now we will have the last speaker for this Earth Assembly. He will talk from here, from Florence, and Luca Sardo, disculpe, sorry, who is one of the spokesperson of the Friday for the Future in Italy. He will give us some ideas, some reaction at the assembly and the speech. He was listening with all of us. Welcome, Luca, and now you are the last speaker for this Earth Assembly.
Grazie mille, grazie a tutte le persone che hanno parlato prima di me, che hanno dato degli spunti molto interessanti su cui riflettere, hanno portato delle testimonianze in prima persona davvero toccanti. Ci sono tanti attivisti anche del nostro movimento in questi giorni a Sharm el Sheikh e tutti quanti condividono un po' il sentimento che è stato espresso anche dalla delegata poco prima. e cioè che queste COP rischiano col passare del tempo di diventare luoghi in cui le decisioni sono ancora più labili, ancora più morbide del passato. L'anno scorso, per la prima volta dopo 26 COP, è stata menzionata la parola combustibili fossili in un report finale della COP. Vuol dire che per 25 volte non si era mai parlato di combustibili fossili, e quindi è probabile che in futuro queste conferenze, soprattutto visti anche i luoghi in cui si tengono, possano essere ancora meno efficaci. Infatti spesso si dice che i risultati principali delle COP si sono ottenuti nei momenti in cui c'è stata una grande pressione della società civile intorno a questi eventi. E io credo che questa cosa sia fondamentale ed è importantissimo riuscire a trovare altri modi per mettere pressione, per creare una risposta dal basso durante questi eventi, durante le COP. La prossima sarà negli Emirati Arabi Uniti, che come il Qatar sono uno dei primi 10 paesi al mondo per emissioni di CO2 in rapporto alla popolazione, e anche lì ovviamente sarà molto difficile protestare, nonostante alcune persone, anche rischiando in prima persona, cercheranno di farlo. E in questi giorni, proprio oggi, anche a Sharm el Sheikh, diversi attivisti si sono ritrovati per manifestare all'esterno della struttura, e tra l'altro oggi in tutte le città del mondo, a Torino da cui vengo io, così come a Milano, a Roma e in giro per il mondo, ci sono delle manifestazioni per chiedere la liberazione dei 60.000 prigionieri politici di cui si parlava prima, tra cui Alaa Abdel Fattah, che vorrei ricordare qua, è in sciopero ormai della fame e della sete per portare l'attenzione sul greenwashing che l'Egitto sta facendo in questi giorni. E quindi una proposta che io ho sentito diverse volte in mattinata parlando così con persone che sono qui, e in parte anche ripresa dai discorsi, potrebbe essere quella di immaginare un follow-up, un nuovo passo di questo percorso di cui oggi si fa una tappa importante, che potrebbe tenersi magari l'anno prossimo, magari proprio durante la prossima COP, la COP28, e in cui costruire una specie di controevento con tutti i delegati, con tutte persone dai vari continenti, per dar voce a chi ovviamente vive già oggi la crisi climatica sulla sua propria pelle, e in cui costruire quella risposta dal basso e collettiva che altrimenti in questi spazi, secondo me, diventerà sempre più difficile far sentire. E quindi chiedo a tutti voi di appunto continuare a lavorare insieme e far sì che alla prossima COP la risposta, magari il cambiamento vero, venga da qui invece che da Dubai. Grazie mille.
Después de 30 años de negociaciones climáticas, está claro que las Naciones Unidas no producirán los resultados necesarios para evitar el colapso ambiental. Con el Acuerdo de París, las emisiones de gases de efecto invernadero bajarán apenas una décima parte de lo necesario para limitar el incremento de la temperatura por debajo de 1.5 grados centígrados. La COP27 está marcada por un intenso cabildeo de gobiernos y compañías petroleras que buscan posponer la salida de los combustibles fósiles. Las economías industrializadas han eliminado de las negociaciones el reconocimiento de la deuda climática para con los países y grupos sociales que contribuyeron muy poco al cambio climático. La justicia climática solo puede venir desde abajo, desde la sociedad civil, desde asambleas de la Tierra que construyen territorios libres de extractivismo, consumismo, contaminación y violencia. La lucha contra el colapso climático está ligada a la lucha contra la guerra, el fascismo, el capitalismo, el colonialismo, el patriarcado y el racismo. Asambleas de la Tierra no solo de pueblos, sino de naturaleza, donde construyamos alternativas sistémicas no antropocéntricas. Asambleas de la Tierra para recuperar la esencia de la humanidad y superar la crisis de los cuidados. Asambleas de la Tierra en barrios, escuelas, lugares de trabajo, comunidades y municipios que promuevan sociedades sencillas y moderadas, garantizando los derechos humanos y los derechos de la naturaleza. Asambleas de la Tierra para impulsar una transformación estructural del sistema de las Naciones Unidas, donde todos los países sean iguales y no hayan estados con derecho a veto, donde exista una representación tripartita en igualdad de condiciones de gobiernos, sociedad civil y naturaleza. y donde se adopten acuerdos vinculantes para restablecer el equilibrio del sistema de la Tierra. Hoy, la COP27 es en Egipto, un país petrolero con más de 60.000 detenidos políticos. El próximo año tendrá lugar en Emiratos Árabes, otro país con graves violaciones a los derechos humanos. Es tiempo de fortalecer las luchas que vienen desde abajo. Es tiempo de potenciar las alternativas de resistencia desde los territorios. Es tiempo de unificar nuestras iniciativas en una gran Asamblea Mundial de la Tierra, que rompa con la hipocresía de las conferencias de cambio climático y empiece a marcar un camino de verdadera esperanza y acción con justicia climática.